Hi, I'm Rick, 43 years old, confident, fit, and married to a woman most men would envy. That summer, I took a seasonal bartending job at a beachside resort in Key West, Florida. The resort offered on-site staff housing, so I brought my wife Jenna with me. It sounded perfect: work in paradise by day, relax and enjoy each other by night. Jenna's 40, graceful, and has this magnetic charm. We'd lived in Germany for years due to my previous work in hospitality, so she spoke fluent German and loved chatting with foreign guests at the resort. Most nights I worked late, but sometimes Jenna would drop by the bar for a drink. One particular night stands out more than any other. It was quiet, the tourist rush had died down, and only 2 German guests remained, both regulars who had been staying with us for weeks. Their names were Stefan and Michael. They were sitting at the bar when my shift was winding down, so I decided to join them for a drink. Jenna was with me too. The vibe was relaxed, the drinks were flowing, and the conversation? Surprisingly open. Jenna, slightly tipsy, which was rare for her, started chatting with them about relationships. She asked where their wives were. They laughed and said their wives were out clubbing on their own. "We don't interfere with each other's fun when we're on vacation," Stefan explained with a smirk. That idea fascinated Jenna. She told them how in the US, and especially in more traditional communities, couples usually stick together, and straying even a little could lead to gossip or even divorce. But sometimes, she added, swirling her wine glass, a little independence can actually make the marriage stronger. Stefan raised an eyebrow. "So you're saying, you don't see it as cheating?" Jenna glanced at me, silently asking for backup. I gave a slight nod. I added, it depends on the people. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. That's when things took a turn. Jenna excused herself and walked toward the restroom. As soon as she disappeared around the corner, Stefan leaned in, his voice a bit lower now. "Rick," he said, "you seem like a pretty open-minded guy. So tell me, how would you feel if your wife got a little closer to someone else, just for one night?" His tone was casual, but the question hit like a jolt of electricity. I laughed it off at first, trying to sound cool. Well, if I knew about it beforehand, and if it was her choice, I guess I wouldn't stand in her way. If it made her happy. Michael nodded, grinning. Interesting answer. You see, our wives? They gave us permission tonight. We're allowed to explore. And to be honest, we're looking to share something memorable. With the right couple. I froze for a moment, caught between shock and intrigue. Was this really happening? Then Stefan dropped the final piece. "We like your vibe." "And your wife?" "She's stunning. If, and only if, you both agree, we'd love to share an experience. All 4 of us." A strange mix of emotions surged through me. Jealousy? Definitely. But underneath it, a thrill I couldn't deny. I didn't answer right away. I just sipped my drink and tried to process the swirl of images and questions flooding my mind. That's when Jenna returned. She was radiant. Her makeup freshly touched up, a sensual perfume lingering behind her. She smiled and slid back onto her stool. "What did I miss?" she asked playfully. I smiled and said, "They were just saying how lucky I am to be with you." "Oh," she chuckled, turning to Stefan. "And what exactly were you saying about me?" Stefan met her gaze. "Just that you're incredibly attractive, and that we'd love to spend more time with you. In a very different way." Jenna's smile froze for a second. She looked at me. I didn't say a word. Instead, Michael leaned in. We've made an offer. Rick left the decision to you. She blinked, surprised. Wow. That's fast. She looked at them both, then back at me. I mean, I'm flattered. And I like you too. But it's a lot. Stefan spoke gently. Of course. Nothing has to happen. Only if you want it to. And maybe we never see each other again after tonight. I watched Jenna. Her eyes scanned the room. She bit her lip, a habit she had when thinking deeply. I could tell she was genuinely tempted. And then, softly, she said, "Okay, let's say I say yes." How would this even happen? Michael leaned forward. Leave the logistics to us. You just relax. We'll make sure you feel everything you're supposed to feel. Jenna looked at me again. Her gaze held both hesitation and hunger. Rick, she said, no regrets? No guilt-tripping tomorrow? I leaned in and touched her hand. We're not kids anymore. If this is what you want, don't hold back. They're strangers, they'll disappear tomorrow. No stories. No shame. She smiled, just a little. Well, they're handsome. And built like athletes. Let's just hope they're as good as they look. I swallowed hard. And just L. We didn't say much as we left the bar. I locked up quietly while Jenna stood beside Michael, her arms crossed but her expression unreadable. Stefan handed me her cardigan like a gentleman and smiled, but there was something behind his eyes. Confidence. Hunger. The warm Florida air wrapped around us as we walked back to the staff quarters. The path was dimly lit, just the occasional garden lamp casting shadows on the gravel. I walked beside Jenna, but my mind was racing. I could hear Stefan and Michael behind us, laughing softly in German, probably commenting on how the night was unfolding better than they had imagined. Jenna wasn't speaking, but she wasn't pulling away either. That quiet energy she gave off. I knew it. She was nervous. But she was curious. Excited. And so was I. By the time we reached our room, I was sweating, not from the heat, but from everything building inside me. Once inside, Jenna kicked off her sandals and turned on the lamp near the bed. The soft light glowed against her skin. She didn't speak. Just walked into the bathroom and shut the door. I turned towards Stefan and Michael. We stood there in awkward silence for a moment, three men in a stranger's room, waiting for the woman to decide. Then we heard the bathroom door click open. Jenna stepped out, not dressed in anything wild, just her favorite silky robe, the one she wore on nights she felt like being touched. She looked at all three of us and said, calmly, let's not make this complicated. No talking. Just, let's make it worth remembering. I don't know if it was the robe, her voice, or the way she owned the room, but that moment, it was like watching someone I knew all over again for the first time. She walked to the bed and sat down. Michael moved first, removing his shirt, his chest glistening from the Florida humidity. Stefan followed. I could barely breathe. But I stayed close. Watching. Feeling everything and nothing all at once. What happened after that is hard to put into words, not because of what we did, but because of how it felt. The room was full of heat, movement, whispers, hands, breaths. There was no shame. No holding back. Just an intensity that made time feel like it had stopped. I wasn't just a spectator. I was part of it. Jenna and I locked eyes so many times through that night, and in those moments, I saw something in her I hadn't seen in years. Freedom. Power. Joy. When everything slowed and the energy faded, we were all breathless. Stefan and Michael stepped away, polite, almost reverent. They didn't stay the night. They left quietly, without a word, just nods and half-smiles. Jenna turned to me as I sat at the edge of the bed, still catching my breath. She leaned against me, her voice low, tender. "Thank you," she said. "I never thought I'd actually do something like this. But I'm glad I did. And I'm glad it was with you by my side." I kissed her forehead. That night didn't break us. It didn't confuse us. It reminded us we were still alive. The morning sunlight filtered through the sheer white curtains, casting soft lines across the bed. Jenna was still asleep beside me, her back turned, one leg wrapped in the thin cotton sheet. Her breathing was slow, steady, peaceful. I lay there quietly, eyes on the ceiling, replaying the night in my head. What had we just done? Not in a guilty way. Not in a what have we done panic. But in awe. As if we had crossed a line that we always knew was there, but neither of us had dared to touch before. And now that line was behind us. Jenna stirred, rolled toward me, and opened her eyes. She looked tired, but there was something else in her face, serenity. "Still here?" she whispered. I smiled. Where else would I be? She let out a breath and placed her hand on my chest. You didn't say much after they left. I didn't know what to say. Was it too much? I shook my head. No. It was just more real than I expected. She nodded, biting her lip the way she always did when she was unsure. I didn't know I had that in me, she said softly. You did, I replied. You just needed the right moment to let it out. We stayed like that for a while. No rush to get up. No awkwardness. Just quiet, shared space. The kind of silence that feels warm rather than empty. Eventually, she stood up, pulling the sheet with her. She walked to the window, looked out at the palm trees swaying in the breeze, and asked, Do you think we'll ever talk about this again? I shrugged. Maybe. Maybe not. But I don't think we need to. We were both there. We both know what it was. She turned to me, her expression soft, almost grateful. You didn't judge me. I never would. She smiled. Then let's carry it like that. Not as a secret. Not a shame. Just a memory. Something that's ours. And in that moment, I realized something profound. Marriage isn't about rules. It's not about locking each other inside a box and throwing away the key. It's about trust. About knowing that sometimes, when you open a door instead of slamming it shut, you discover a new kind of closeness, the kind that doesn't need explanation. That morning, we didn't just wake up from a night of passion. We woke up new.